If you speak about what you're going through in life and saying that you need help, you're a weak person, especially as a man that's come from an African household as well.
Hello and welcome back to the Sassy Beans podcast. I'm your host, Tans, and today we have a very special guest who goes by the name of Glory, and he's a barber working at Slider Cuts. Some of you may be quite familiar with Slider Cuts, especially if you live in East London. So I'm super excited to have Glory here on the Sassy Beans podcast. Yeah, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself to our guests?
First of all, thank you for allowing me to be in this podcast. And yeah, I'm from Slider Cuts. I'm a barber from there, but I'm glad I'm able to use this platform to kind of share my story, because sometimes as an individual, you think that what you're going through won't empower someone else. So the hope is that through sharing my story and my experience of life in general is able to help someone or show them that there was always light at the end of the tunnel. So thank you for allowing me to be here today in this podcast.
I'm excited to have you here. So thank you for also agreeing to be a guest and sharing your story. Talking about sharing your story, I guess one of the first questions I'd like to ask is, as this podcast is about mental health and your well-being, if you were to choose something that represented it, whether an image or an experience of your mental health and well-being journey, what would that be and why?
We say, thinking about it now, COVID-19.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because in terms of the long-term impact it had on mental health is being broadcasted now worldwide. And it has allowed people now to really focus on mental health to a deeper level than ever before, because it was a period of time where there was no such thing as escapism or distraction. It was literally, for majority of people in the world, them and themselves in their room dealing with problems and issues and traumas that they may have faced in the past, and now having to kind of experience that in their mind again and again and again. So for me, COVID-19 is a big conversation because it very much links to mental health and seeing the effects of COVID-19 on, for example, families and people passing away or people in hospitals and unable to have people visit them, for example. It really, I think, shaped this new period of mental health, and we are seeing the effects of it even up until this day.
Yeah, wow. Sorry, I'm so taken aback because as soon as you mentioned COVID-19, it took me back there. It's so interesting what you're saying, because it was a period of our lives, as you said, where you were stuck inside and it was you and your mental health and whatever you were dealing with. But also how quickly we can move past things, especially the things that are challenging. So when you brought that back to light, I was like, wow, it took me a minute to remember that. So it's such a strong time, and everyone can relate to that because everyone experienced COVID-19. Thank you for sharing that. So you talked a little bit about mental health and how that was affected in COVID-19.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your mental health and well-being in the present moment?
I feel as though I'm in a good place, mentally speaking. I think I'm someone that has gone through mental health in the past and kind of had this stigma of, if you speak about what you're going through in life and saying that you need help, you're a weak person, especially as a man that's come from an African household as well. So it's something that there was a moment in my life where I had to kind of like speak up and say that I'm not doing well mentally, and I was able to receive the help that I needed to receive, and it's allowed me to be at peace, mentally speaking, and also being surrounded by people that love and support me. That's always been something that I have gratitude for every single day. So I definitely say without that support, I wouldn't know where I would be. because I think when you open up and speak, the aim is for someone to at least listen to you.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to have people that actually listen to what I got to say. So, yeah, the battle that I went through, I'm happy to say that I'm good today. Yeah.
Wow, wonderful. And it's good to hear that. Also, thank you for sharing that. I'm also curious about how did you get to have those conversations? Because as you mentioned, there were some cultural aspects around speaking about mental health. And I know that lots of people do experience this. I'm from a Caribbean heritage, and so like the African heritage, like mental health there's a taboo that's attached to that. So how did you have that conversation, and how can others follow in that footstep?
Yeah. So again, relating back to COVID-19, this was the first time where I felt like my mental health was getting too much for me just to keep within myself. So fortunate for me, I was at home with my family during that period of time. I was at home with my mom, my dad, and my 4 brothers. And we spent, I think, 4 or 5 months on lockdown restrictions. And in that moment, I would spend a lot of time by myself, even share a room with my brother at the time. And my brothers, they owned different rooms. I just wouldn't speak to my brothers. I would kind of pattern of, in the daytime, I'll be sleeping. And in the nighttime, I'll be by myself, just doing my own thing. But it got to a point now where, again, like the mental health was too great. So just small conversations with my brothers where I'm kind of hinting to them that I'm not happy. I'm not happy with my life. I'm not happy with where I am. I'm not happy with what I achieved in life in general. And I just remember them saying to me, like, you're speaking as if you are like an old man, like you're 50 years, 60 years old, and you have a lot of regrets. You're forgetting how young you are. And when COVID-19 happened, I was 20 at the time. So I felt like I had no future in life. And I just remember speaking as if like my life was almost about to be done. Like there was no more chance of me being successful or making my family proud. Because going back a little bit, I did my A-levels and I underachieved massively than I expected to. And that kind of caused a stigma in the family where I was someone that was considered like the unserious one because of my underachievement. And that kind of stuck with me, and the pressure of succeeding was too great for me to kind of shoulder. So when I was at university now, I kind of tried to escape a lot. But again, COVID-19 allowed for no escape. So all the problems that I faced in my past, they were now being replayed in my mind constantly, which made me feel down.
That sounded like it was a very, very difficult time. And thank you so much for sharing that and being quite graphic about exactly how you were feeling. Because one of the questions I was edging towards, which you answered it so beautifully, was how do you know when your mental health is getting to a stage that you need to then reach out for that support? And you spoke about just not being present or being in a situation with others, but not fully being present and speaking from a place of hopelessness, it sounds like, where you're just, I'm just not happy. So you're saying you're not happy, but at the same time, there's some entrapment in the situation itself. So yeah, thank you. I think that's so key to be able to understand what is it that's happening inside of you that is letting you know, well, hang on a minute, I don't feel myself, but this is why I don't feel myself. The kind of telltale signs that people can look for before it gets to a point where you're in crisis. So once again, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I guess this is kind of veering a little bit off, but I wonder, since being able to speak up about your mental health and getting that support, how has that then impacted your relationship with yourself, but also the relationship with others?
I would say now, to start with myself, I'm less harsh with myself now. I think I was someone that was very critical of myself and usually used to speak negatively and speak down to myself a lot. And that's something that I knew I had to change in order to have a better mental state, first of all. Being comfortable under my own skin, being happy under my own skin. So, of course, COVID-19 was let's say, a major turning point in my mental health, but there were other things that I had to deal with that affected me in my childhood, that made me the person that I was, that ended up really breaking down and needing help because I felt like I wasn't in a good place mentally. So from just changing how I speak to myself, encourage myself to smile more each and every single day, encourage myself to have gratitude with what I have now, and being confident in what's to come in the future. That's something that's helped me a lot more. And also with my relationship with my family, because back then I was more someone that didn't really appreciate my family and what they have done for me, for example. And I'm someone now that looks to express my love to my family a lot, especially because of how much they helped me in my life journey to get me to where I am now. And just being able to see a family that was once upon a time divided has now worked hard to be united. And something that I'm willing to share in this podcast is the passing of my mother, which happened 2 years ago, and her health issues at the time that she was going through. She wasn't willing to share that with us, her children at the time. And there was like an experience where she fell ill at home and we was confused with what happened. And it was only through speaking to the doctors that they said that this is what she's going through and she actually doesn't have a lot left to live. And of course that upset me at the time, upset us as a family, but realised this is an opportunity for us now to really come together and support one another and also show love to each other and to our mum as well. So because of us helping each other a lot through that difficult situation, even though our mum passed away, I would definitely say that we are a lot more stronger as a family than ever before because we helped each other cope with the pain of a loss, which isn't easy for anyone to go through.
I'm really sorry to hear that. It's never easy to lose someone, but also to lose someone so close and someone so precious. But it sounds like you said you were able to honor her by bringing everyone together and working to support each other. That is so key. Sometimes people think you need to go and look outside for that support. But what you're saying here in your story, that your family has been the support and all it took was you to be honest and to speak up. In the case of your mom, it shows a little bit of the keeping quiet of things, but how important it is to speak up, because when you do speak up, it has more of a positive impact. Sometimes I do wonder what are the thoughts behind, for example, African families or cultures and Caribbean cultures, amongst many other cultures. What is it about the stigma? Well, what we're doing here is having more conversations about that. But how can we have more conversations that gets rid of that stigma so people realize actually you can talk about mental health, you can talk about what you're going through. In fact, communication makes you stronger.
I agree. And I think communication is something that is undervalued in this day and age, in terms of just being able to kind of spend time just sitting with someone and just speaking, because you never know what someone's going through. And sometimes we can get caught up with being quote unquote busy and needing to have our minds elsewhere or the next thing or the next task we have in that day. I felt like that situation with my mum where she was ill, especially with my brothers, was able to now just sometimes, even with something when we're eating, we used to love eating with our earphones on, watching something on YouTube or watching something on Netflix. We actually decided, well, let's actually use the opportunity to actually speak to each other and actually ask each other, like, are we okay with what's been going on? My mum had like a lot of seizures at the time, which meant she was in and out of hospital a lot, and we witnessed that. And it got to a point we became numb towards her having a seizure because we knew now the routine of what to do next, whereas before it was a shock. And we kind of normalized it. And I remember like one of the doctors at the time that came from the ambulance and they gathered us as a family said, like, what you guys have witnessed is very traumatic. I'm surprised of how calm you guys are. but don't be afraid to speak to each other, because of course you can get help outside, but these are the people that you need to rely upon, which is your family. So us really taking that word and practicing that every single day, even though it's been 2 years, we still practice that till this day. It's helped me, and I'm sure it's helped my brothers as well.
Yeah. Wow, that's so powerful. And thank you for sharing that. It really warmed my heart again in seeing how from something that is difficult, a challenging situation, you were able to come together and really hold each other and kind of leave nobody behind and create such a strong bond and structure that it can move past overcoming the challenge, but also setting yourself up and creating it's like a new sort of legacy in that sense. You're stepping away from generational ways of doing things to create like a new pathway that works and is really positive for you and your brothers. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Well, I think you've kind of answered this question about things, but I'll ask it anyway because there might be something else. Are there any significant moments in your journey that you would like to celebrate, and why?
I would definitely say graduating from university. That was an amazing achievement, because I was someone that I'm willing to speak openly about. I struggled being at university. I stopped and start. I started university at 18 and I finished my undergraduate degree at 24 years old. And I actually failed my first year at university. And of course, for me personally, it was when I asked myself why, it's not because I was incapable of producing quality work to get high marks, but simply because I was struggling mentally and I didn't speak up about it. I remember the days where I would just, not even the days, like a whole week just being in my room in the dark alone, and I would just overeat a lot. So I would literally leave my room, cook, eat food, go back to sleep again, and that was my routine for a week. And at that time, it was not something that I spoke about openly. I didn't speak to anyone about that, what I was going through at university. So that, with the health issues that my mom went through and her passing away, I remember for me graduating, I was so proud of myself, because I said, you know what, instead of me quitting university, I'm going to go out to finish it, complete it, graduate, having my family there as well to watch me and to support me and show love to me was amazing. And for me, being able to honour my mom as well. So one of my pictures is with me with my graduate certificate and a picture of my mom. And that picture, I always say, and now with pictures, the way I see pictures now, every single day pictures, the value of a picture increases, because it's something that you can always show to the next generation.
Yes. So
that for me was amazing for me to really celebrate. So yeah, and it was for me just to say, Glory, like no matter what struggles you're going through, you can always make it to the end and complete it. Just don't quit and don't give up.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. You're absolutely right. You've overcome so much, and it sounds like that was just something else to overcome. And, you know, as well, people, I do feel that sometimes the pressures happen are from society, not sometimes, nearly all of the time. Society creates a lot of pressures in terms of expectations. You should do this in this way, but we're all different. And so therefore, the fact that you were able to say, well, actually, I'm struggling here. So instead of me going and doing it in the time where it's supposedly everybody else is doing it, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to work for it. I'm going to get to where I need to get to. But it's just going to look different from everybody else's. And that's such a key message right there, because I know that lots of people struggle with their mental health, especially when it comes to then adding the pressures of education on top of that. And so sometimes you can fall into that sort of a pit where you feel like you need to perform rather than actually take the journey itself. And it is a journey. It is a process, and there's different elements to that process. but it's important that you're on that journey and it looks like what you need it to look like rather than what everybody else says it should look like.
Exactly that, yeah. I agree.
Thank you. So the next question, as we're talking about society, is how does society, your culture, and others' opinions influence your mental health and well-being?
I would say the pressures of society when I was younger, it did affect me a lot. We have this slang term that we use in my generation. We call it ends. Some people may call it the hood. But it's basically just growing up in an area where you see a lot of poverty. You see people that have parents that are struggling to make ends meet, maybe come to school and they are hungry because they haven't eaten in the evening the day before or haven't even had breakfast. So they've come up with the mentality of, I have to be the one that breaks my family out of poverty. So in the area, it's like, let me start with the idea of like showing off. Like, I'm not just one more person that experiences poverty. I'm someone that, for example, can obtain designer, or I can obtain luxurious items or accessories to kind of like show off. And that's something that I grew up with the mentality with. So, for example, I remember when we had like non-uniform day, that was like the worst day in school for me, because it's like I had no clothes that I could wear to kind of like show off or be proud of. I was always like ashamed or embarrassed because I knew that if I wore the clothes that I wore from my house, I would be laughed at. So I remember like going to my neighbours and asking like, do you know, I have spare clothes or spare trainers that I can wear so I can go to school with? And thankfully they were able to help me and I was able to go to school in peace. But just growing up with that mentality, it caused me to kind of stray towards hearing what quote unquote friends have to say in terms of what's the ideal person that I should be. So someone that is looking to obtain status through my outward appearance, or someone that's able to have friendships that made me more popular, and someone that meet the demands of society. And that's something that I realized through my struggles when I was alone, that these people that were supporting me because I was popular and I had friends and I was, for example, known around the area, these same people weren't there when I needed help. It was my family. And sometimes leaning on people that had love and care for me was something that I neglected a lot in my childhood. So that's something that I decided to change, which helped me being that I don't have to overdress or look for luxurious items to be accepted by society. I can just be myself. I think that's key for myself and anyone else as well. Just being yourself is important.
Absolutely. I agree completely. It's great to see how where you've come from to how that's impacted the decisions that you make in the here and now, which is understanding that you are who you are and you're able to change your story. But it's not so much about what everybody else needs to see. It's about who you are and being true to that and being authentic, which is amazing. Thank you for especially sharing that, because I know that there are lots of people who struggle with knowing who their true selves are. And so they show up wearing masks. The idea is we all want to be accepted, but it's at what cost are you going to be accepted? Is it at the cost of who you truly are? And who is that exactly? You kind of offered a bit of words of encouragement, but I wondered if you had any other words of encouragement for others, whether it's about being their true selves or whether it's about seeking support. Yeah, do you have any other encouraging words for anyone who might be struggling with their mental health and well-being?
First of all, I would definitely say that you're not alone. That's one thing that I'll always say to someone is, you're not alone in what you're going through. And that if you just have the faith to speak up with whatever you're going through, you'll find out that there's a lot of people that are willing to support you, as long as you're able to have the faith that speaking up will bring help. And working in a barbershop, we've seen a lot of that. What's good about Slider Cuts is that Slider himself has created an environment that allows people of any age. So you could be a teenager that's struggling with education, or you could be a grown man that's maybe struggling with his marriage, for example. But he's created an environment that allows people to come into the barbershop and just speak openly. And sometimes other barbers who may be just cutting their own client may, for example, just give a word of advice, or even like pull that person to the side and just be like, listen, like, I can help in this situation, speak to this person, or even they might have gone through something and they're now giving words of encouragement to you. So I feel like that's what has helped the environment of the barbershop to be a healthy environment. But also, barbershop's not the only place where you can speak up, but even just speaking to your family, just taking someone to the side and just sitting down with them for a minute or even 10 minutes, no matter how long you need or it takes, be free to speak up. And even though it might cause you to be overwhelmed, filled with emotion, trust that because you opened up, you're in a better place than you was before.
Wow. Absolutely. I agree. And thank you for sharing what the atmosphere is in Slider Cuts as well. And it sounds like a brilliant space and environment for people to go in and really have that safe space in knowing that they're held in that environment. What I also like about that is the fact that you're just going to cut your hair, or you're going to make yourself feel good, or whatever your reasons for stepping in there. But then here's the additional space for you to actually be honest about what you're going through. And someone's on standby to give you some advice or to take you to one side, which is amazing. And it's great for those people who might not feel comfortable enough to go into a different setting to ask for that support. It takes away the taboo around that. You can just go and have that conversation. So yeah, thank you. If anyone's looking for a really chilled space where you can go and get that support, do visit Slider Cuts. So it sounds amazing. If ever I need a haircut, I know where to go. Definitely. So in terms of any plans for the future, do you foresee any challenges or successes? And how do you plan on addressing or celebrating them?
I would say now, I'm someone that is very confident in, let's say, the challenges that I could potentially face in the future. So, for example, something that is a small challenge, but is a challenge in itself, it's hot outside. So there's been a sports day that's been organised, for example, and I've been told to run the 100 metres. Wow. And me, I haven't ran since I was 15, 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, okay, how can I get into shape to at least be able to run a time that I could be proud? But it's remembering that the pressure is not to run and to impress people. Mm-hmm. Or, for example, if I lose the race, I should be ashamed of myself. The mentality now is to go there, be confident in the preparation that I have, but also to have fun and to enjoy myself. And knowing that there are going to be people there that will support me and love me, and just to enjoy the day itself, and really taking opportunities now each and every single day to really celebrate the days that we experience, because time goes fast. Once upon a time, COVID it feels like yesterday. Yeah. But now it's 5 years later, we're in 2025, halfway through the decade already. And it's important for us to really have the mentality to enjoy life, because the more you do that, the more memories that you build. And when you look back, you're really proud of yourself and what you've achieved. So I always say that it's just important, and I encourage, take each and every single day to not neglect, but to really approach the day with a confidence that you will enjoy it. And every challenge that I will face, I will enjoy. And I'm never failing, but I'm always learning. Yeah. So that I can do well in the next challenge. And I'm definitely going to say that when I look back at my life now, I'm going to be proud of myself in what I overcome mentally, because that first and foremost was a challenge. But secondly, what I've been able to accumulate and to achieve, which is meeting new people, to laugh with, to enjoy, but to also to love and care for, and to receive that back as well.
Wow. Fantastic. Thank you so much. What a great way to kind of end in that sense, talking about just taking each day, but also taking everything that all the challenges and seeing them in a different way. And that's such great encouragement, because quite often it really depends on how we see something. Our perception is so key. So one person might look at something as a challenge, and someone else might look at that as an opportunity to, like you say, have fun or to really overcome something and then have something to celebrate. So yeah, mentality has a lot to do with how you can overcome your challenges, and showing up and choosing. I'm going to use the word choosing how to show up, how you want to show up every day is really, really key. Because it doesn't matter what happens, you can still make choices. Even in the times when you feel like you don't have any choices, you always have a choice in how you respond to those challenges. I just want to say thank you. It's been such an honor and a pleasure to have you here on the Sassy Beans podcast. I know your story is going to empower a lot more people. And yeah, I'm just really excited for everything that you're going to do going forward. Yeah, come back and visit us and give us an update.
I will do, for sure. Thank you for having me here. It's been an honor sharing my story on this platform. And I really, really like to thank you, because, again, you really made me realize how much I've overcome. Because sometimes you forget, because you're always on the next move, but just allow me to really relive the past experiences. It reminds me of how much I've overcome, and there's a lot more to come.
Brilliant. Once again, thank you to our guest, Glory from Slider Cuts. It's been an amazing pleasure having you here. You've been listening to the Sassy Beans podcast with your host, Tans. Take care, and remember, your health and well-being matters.